Lori Daybell seemed to be living a happy, normal life until her world spiraled into a storm of deceit and death. By early 2019, her marriage to Charles Vallow was unraveling, damaged by Lori's entanglement with Chad Daybell, a self-styled prophet who talked about apocalyptic visions and past life connections. Their affair was built on doomsday prophecies and cast a black cloud over the Vallow household. Charles confronted Lori about her infidelity and radical beliefs. He filed for divorce. Fearful for his life, he sought protection, revealing Lori's chilling threats and erratic behavior. Everything came to a head on July 11, 2019. Charles arrived at Lori's residence in Chandler, Arizona to pick up their son, JJ. An altercation erupted, culminating in Lori's brother, Alex Cox, fatally shooting Charles. Cox claimed self-defense, alleging Charles had attacked him with a baseball bat. In the aftermath, Lori and Chad's bond deepened, their union sealed in marriage just weeks after Chad's wife, Tammy, died under mysterious circumstances. This whirlwind of events unveiled a narrative steeped in betrayal, fanaticism, and a chilling disregard for life, leaving Charles, 2 children, and Chad's wife dead, and Lori inside a courtroom facing yet another murder trial. Tonight we are live with the latest as Lori cross-examines her own brother, Adam Cox. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us. Lori Daybell comes from a big family. Growing up, siblings, parents, uncles, aunts, and she seemed to garner a lot of attention in that family. But it's also a family when the children grew up, some of them kind of went their own ways a little bit. However, Lori's brother Alex seemed to have a special bond with his sister and a special role. You see, he attacked her husbands, at least 2 of them that we know of. Joseph Ryan, he went at him with a stun gun to the groin. He ended up doing time in jail for that. He joked about it in his stand-up comedy routine. But yeah, he went after Joseph Ryan, and then we know he shot and killed Charles Vallow. So this relationship between this brother and sister, very unique. We've heard Lori speak about Alex to other people in not such kind terms, but it seems Alex was dedicated to her and did whatever she needed to get done, including murder. But Alex is dead, so he's not a part of this trial. He's a part of the trial, but he won't be participating in the trial because he's dead. But guess what? There's another brother. His name is Adam. So Lori, there's 2 brothers connected to this case to a certain extent because Adam was a witness in this case today. Adam Cox. Now, Adam and Lori's relationship, I think, was pretty normal when they were growing up. I think when they got older, they didn't spend as much time together because of Adam's profession. He was in the radio business and traveled around and had jobs in different places around the country. But he's a part of this case. So if you testify in this trial, if you're called by the prosecution, you are then cross-examined by the defendant, his sister, sibling cross-examination. That's what happened today inside of the courtroom. It's almost surreal to a certain extent. Think about what this is like for this family. Like, first of all, the family's been thrust into all of this, right? This is why everyone knows things about this family. And it's such a huge story and such a huge scandal and such an incredible tragedy. On top of that, with all the people who have died as a result of what Lori and Chad were doing. So today was the day. Adam Cox called to the stand. He had some testimony. He was in contact with Charles Vallow, and now it's time for the cross-examination. So now Lori gets up to question her brother.
Mr. Cox, how long has it been since we've seen each other in person?
Don't know.
When was the last time you saw me?
I don't recall.
So, has it been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years,
Something
6 years,
like that.
7 years, 8 years?
Something.
Okay. So, you have no idea.
Nope.
You have no idea when the last time you saw me in person.
I don't know the year or how many years it's been.
Okay. So, did you see me at Colby's wedding in January 2018?
No, I was not there.
You didn't come to Colby's wedding.
No, I did not.
So, did you see me sometime that year at my house
Possibly.
where Colby got married? That house.
I did see you at that house, yes.
At least one time.
Yes.
So possibly in 2018.
Yes.
And when was the last time we had any communications?
The last time I remember our communications was you and I were speaking in the kitchen when the family was over.
Okay. So you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
I don't remember that.
Okay. So right now it's 2025, is that correct?
Yes.
And so we haven't spoken in about 8 years. Would that be correct?
It's probably 7 or 8 years.
Okay. So would you say up until that point that how often would we communicate before that?
Before what?
Before 2018?
Probably on a regular basis. Once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month.
You know of us living in Hawaii and you were living in Kansas at the time?
Yes.
And in your career, you lived in lots of different places, is that correct?
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
New York,
Yes.
Wichita,
Yes.
Sacramento.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Others.
And I was in Texas,
Yes.
Arizona,
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yes.
So would you say that we were not physically close during the past 20 years?
Yes, I would say that.
So, Mr. Cox, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
Repeat that again?
Okay. Did you see with your eyes or hear with your ears or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
He didn't remember the green chili enchilada, chicken enchilada? Shocking. Shocking. Mr. Cox did not remember that. Wow. What was it like inside the courtroom during that moment? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft joining us live from Arizona. I'm trying to think, Kelly, I've been at Court TV a long time. I've seen a lot of trials. I don't think I've ever seen a sibling cross-examination. That might be a first. What was it like inside the courtroom?
Hey, Vinnie, it was something to see, I can tell you that. In regard to the green enchiladas, she seemed disappointed that he did not remember them. She was saying, I made them for years for the family, but he did not remember them. It was as if when I was sitting there, it felt like Adam was looking at Lori wanting to be like, come on, I know you're in there somewhere. And it was as if he was just trying to pull something out of her by like looking at her. She did not address him by his first name, which has been a change from what she has done with other witnesses that we have seen throughout this trial, Vinnie. She's been going up there saying the first name and the last name. Her own brother she did not refer to as Adam. She referred to him as Mr. Cox. That question on cross-examination, I do think that was a very solid question, a very good question by her, asking if she saw or heard anything about her and their brother conspiring. He said no. She actually had to ask it twice. But then on redirect, there was something from the prosecutor which got him to say more regarding that conspiracy. Why don't we go ahead and play that for our viewers?
When you were talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed that Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because Lori had told people that Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there was a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning.
And so he went on to say that he had no doubt that Lori and his brother did conspire to murder Charles. It was interesting because on redirect, Lori began to object, and she said that it was outside the scope, the prosecutor's redirect. The judge allowed the prosecutor to proceed, but after she was done asking those questions, the judge came back, Vinnie, and said Lori was technically right, that the redirect was outside the scope. He gave Lori a chance to cross-examine. She chose not to.
Such an interesting dynamic. And to you know, brother and sister and brother, and here they are. And it was interesting when she referenced Alex, she said my brother Alex, not our brother Alex. I thought that was interesting as well. Okay, other than Mr. Cox, any other witnesses today?
Yeah, some really big witnesses after Adam. So a lot of interesting testimony today. Serena Sharp, a friend of Lori's, she took the stand, and it got a little heated when Lori was cross-examining her as well, because Lori was asking her about her testimony, being under God, what she knows, if she heard her actually say the word zombies. Why don't we go ahead and play a little bit of Serena's testimony?
Ms. Sharp, did you take an oath when you came into this courtroom today?
Yes, I did.
Did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
Did you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
The whole truth?
Yes.
Nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you who?
God.
So can we agree that this court acknowledges that your testimony here today will be accountable to God?
Your Honor, I don't object to the relevance of this.
Sustained.
Vinnie, extensive note-taking today going on between Adam Cox on the stand, Serena Sharp, and then also another big witness. We were actually surprised the state did call Kay Woodcock because it was getting close to the end of the day, but the state did call Kay, this is Charles Vallow's sister, as a witness. Why don't we go ahead and play a little bit of her testimony?
In 2019, again, without going into what Charles said, did you ever believe that Charles was concerned for his safety?
Charles was absolutely concerned for his safety. Lori had sent me a text, I think it was on a Thursday, that she and Charles were fighting because of some stuff she came up with, and that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel.
So that was kind of in the beginning of Kay's testimony, talking about how Charles was kind of getting afraid for his life, concerned about his safety. Eventually, she did become emotional on the stand, talking about the death of her brother and several times using the word murder. Vinnie.
And you talk about everything that's happened here. Kay and her husband, Larry Woodcock, really the driving force behind peeling back all the layers of what Lori and Chad did. And it all really began with trying to find JJ and reporting him missing. That set everything in motion. That is now culminating with this trial in Arizona. Kelly Craft, thank you so much. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, private investigator with more than 20 years experience, Jason Jensen. Also with us, retired criminal defense attorney Kirk Nurmi, and former federal prosecutor, president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers, Nima Rahmani, with us. Okay, Kirk, I want to begin with you and what you think of what we've seen so far in this cross-examination by Lori Daybell inside the infamous Maricopa County Courthouse where you spent many, many years.
Yeah, you know, she's really not doing herself any favors. I think she keeps shooting herself in the foot at every opportunity. You know, she's got this question that she considers a got you question. Did you, see me or hear me conspire to kill my husband with my brother? And but that is opening the door to response. And we saw Adam Cox sternly sit there after the state got on redirect and say, yeah, I immediately knew it was them because they were talking about these dark spirits, what have you. Then she did the same thing, didn't learn her lesson the first time, did the same thing with Kay Woodcock, who went in and said, hey, no, I didn't hear anything directly, but I saw lots of evidence, which of course is an objectionable comment, but Lori, not being a lawyer, doesn't know that. So all she's doing through this cross-examination, she thinks she's making all these great points, pointing out God, everything else. She's doing herself no favors. She's making a job easier for the state.
Nima, do you think, though, she scored some points in undermining Adam Cox's credibility when he did not recall the green chili chicken enchiladas?
Vinny, I don't think I'll ever forget that line of questioning. Maybe because my expectations were so low. Let's not forget, Lori Vallow was found to be incompetent. If you recall her statements at her sentencing of the death of her 2 children, I thought she would be off the rails. I thought this would be worse than Darrell Brooks, but maybe because she was somewhat coherent, I didn't think it was absolutely terrible. Did she score any points? Probably not. She missed the whole issue, right? You have Adam Cox talking about Spirit Ned. You have Serena Sharp talking about the zombies, right? And they're talking about evidence that puts her, really implicates her in this murder, even though she didn't pull the trigger, her brother did. And she's talking about really bias, right? That her brother hasn't seen her in quite some time and Adam's memory is poor. She didn't really get to the heart of the matter. And like Kirk said, she really opened the door to a lot of speculation that no lawyer would have allowed in. So really poor job, but maybe because I expected an F-, this was just an F today.
All right, Jason Jensen, in trying to figure out exactly what was going on here, what the dynamics are, when you have someone like Adam Cox who can take the witness stand, who grew up with Lori, grew up with Alex, knows them and knows how different things became with them, right? It's like something happened. Yes, they were physically, geographically distanced because Adam is traveling around the country from market to market, working in his profession. But at the same time, it's clear to me that he believes that, yeah, there was a conspiracy. And yes, my brother and my sister, not proud of it. To me, that is such important insight for this jury.
Right, Vinny. The thing that was very clear to me is the fact that Lori's grilling Adam about how estranged they had become doesn't serve her well, because what she really needed to focus on was how this is aberrant behavior. This is, something that would not be within her character or Alex, and that is there a possibility that this was self-defense? Because bear in mind, there was an injury and there was conversation of Alex had with Chandler police before all this went down.
Kirk, how different would this be if Alex Cox did not pass away on the toilet?
That's hard to say because we have this conspiracy to commit murder charge, but the focus of her defense, Lori's defense, should be that there was no murder, that it was an act of self-defense. So if Mr. Cox were still alive and...
Wait, Kirk, when you say Mr. Cox, you have to... Which one? Because Lori was referring to Adam as Mr. Cox, just so there's no confusion. That's right. Okay. When we instruct Alan Cox, the deceased, if he were tried first, if they use this evidence and he were tried first, that would make this a completely different ballgame now because he would have been convicted of a murder. That evidence would have come forward, and then that issue wouldn't even be apparent. But the thing is, for the state, is that Miss Vallow doesn't seem to be convinced, or I understand that that's the issue. This is a conspiracy to commit murder. It's not an enchilada case. It really relates to the murder. And she's not fixating on the fact that there wasn't a murder. Chandler police made that conclusion years ago. The whole enchilada. All right, Jason Jetson, Kirk Durbin, Nima Rahmani staying with us. When we come back, we're going to have more from the Maricopa County Courthouse, taking a look at some of the other testimony from today and some of the issues crucial to this case, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the retrial of the century. Jury selection is on schedule, and this trial is starting next week with opening statements. Tonight, we take a deep dive into the defense. What exactly is the defense's theory? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
I'm confessing to a murder.
I did it.
I'm your worst nightmare, David.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Sunday at 8, only on Court TV. Done.
I've tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad. Lately, she's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Schneider. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow.
So for Charles Vallow, it was clear something was wrong with Lori, that something was really wrong, that she's saying that he's dead, he's possessed, he's this guy. He says Nick Schneider, it's actually, I believe, Ned Schneider. But all this very bizarre behavior. But I think he also knew it was dangerous to a certain extent. He was trying and reaching out, trying to get help, but no one was apparently able to help him and to save him from Lori. Today in the courtroom, Christina Atwood testified, defendant's former friend, so this is Lori's former friend, talking about these same issues about Lori, talking about Charles.
Did that help refresh your recollection as to whether or not Lori had ever told you that her husband, Charles, was possessed?
Yes.
And did it help refresh your recollection as to whether or not Lori Vallow had told you that her husband was possessed by some spirit that had a name?
Yes.
And at that time, you could not recall what the name was?
Correct.
Did you hear Lori speak about Charles being possessed more than once?
Yes.
On more than one occasion?
Yes.
Did she tell you, as well as the other women who were at this meeting in February, that her husband was possessed?
Yes.
Did you ever participate in any castings?
Oh.
Let me ask it this way. Did Lori ever talk to you about casting?
Yes.
What did you understand that to mean?
It was praying for dark spirits to be cast out of someone.
Were you ever involved in a casting for her husband?
I was in her presence when she prayed for that.
So it was a real thing, and she was not keeping this private. She was publicly talking to other people about these dark spirits. Let's bring back in our think tank, still here. Jason Jensen, Kirk Nerby, Nima Romani. Jason, to me, this has always been one of those issues. And I think it's a big issue about what is really going on between the ears of Lori Daybell. Does she genuinely believe that Charles has been invaded by zombies, that he is Ned Schneider, or is it some sort of a pretext that she's using to persuade Alex to kill him and perhaps to explain the death, the premature death of Charles and others when they die before they're supposed to die?
Right, and that goes to the heart of this case, the heart of the trial. While the prosecutor is trying to say that this is, a basis for the conspiracy, one can argue that, it had the dehumanizing effect, and Alex was more inclined to use lethal violence against Charles because of this conditioning. But it doesn't necessarily mean there's a conspiracy per se.
Let me ask you, Nima, what are your thoughts on that issue? If the jury believes that Lori actually believed that he was a zombie, like legitimately believed he was a zombie, that the dark spirits had taken him over, do they cut her any sort of a break here?
Potentially, yes, Vinny. Let's go through it. So the conspiracy, that's a specific intent crime, which means that you have to have the intent to enter into an agreement to do something unlawful, an agreement to kill. So there's that element. Could potentially negate the criminal intent or the mens rea there. Or with respect to self-defense, if it's an unreasonable belief, we've talked about perfect versus imperfect self-defense, it can reduce murder to manslaughter. If you genuinely, in your heart of hearts, but unreasonably believe that you're at imminent risk of death or serious bodily injury, kill someone, it's not murder, it's manslaughter, not conspiracy to commit murder. Now, of course, we know that Lori Vallow here, or Lori Daybell, is free-rolling, right? She's serving a life sentence in Idaho. Her attorneys did a masterful job of saving her life and getting the death penalty off the table. So she has nothing to lose here. She might as well try this case, try it pro se, throw all these arguments out. I don't know if she understands these legal issues and can coherently make these arguments to a jury, but potentially, yes, if she did have that legal knowledge and sophistication, she could do so. Don't think it's going to work, though.
All right, Kirk, I want to play for you a little more testimony from Christina Atwood, talking about something that Alex said. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to see if you pick up on the same thing that I'm picking up on here.
Can you tell us your impression of Alex Cox? What was the impression you got from meeting him and being with him for a night?
I was put off by it.
Why?
He was pretty loud and outspoken, I guess. And I was very uncomfortable with what he was talking about. He stated he wished that he could just kill Charles.
Okay. Was Lori around when he's saying this?
Yes, one of the times.
Did she react in any way to hearing her brother say that he wished she could just kill her husband?
Not that I recall.
Okay, Kirk, here's what I'm hearing that is very significant there. Is that Alex said he wanted to kill Charles, not Ned. Not Ned, who's the supposed spirit, zombie, whatever, that takes over Charles's body, but he wants to kill Charles. I think that's huge, but maybe I'm overplaying this because I'm obsessed with Ned Schneider.
Yeah, well, I would look at it a slightly different way, Vinny. I think it's evidence of premeditation. He's talking about wanting to kill Charles, right? There's not so much talk of the casting. There's not concern about the spirit. There's just a desire to kill. And then we think about the timing of this killing, Vinnie. What's the most crucial time for someone who's a victim of domestic violence? That time they're going to leave. So he's talking about killing Charles. Charles is talking about packing up, getting away from Lori. He's starting to date. He's got this plan with Adam Cox to revoke Lori's temple recommend. All that speaks to premeditation and conspiracy. So to me, that's where that fits in the puzzle, whether we're talking about Ned or Charles. It's premeditation of Charles, the death of Charles.
All right, Jason, I want to take a listen to one other piece of testimony from Christina Atwood. Big witness, I think, for prosecutors, talking about something that Lori did.
During this same gathering on June 9th of 2019, did you hear Lori Vallow say anything about Charles that was also disturbing to you?
Yes.
What did you hear her say?
I heard her say that she had crushed up some of JJ's medicine and put it in his drink mix.
Did it sound like a significant amount of medication?
Yes.
When you heard this, what were you thinking?
I was disturbed.
Jason Jessen, sounds like she attempted a Corey Richins.
Yes, that's what it would sound like. And I think it would be something I would object to, because that doesn't necessarily mean that it happened. Many times when there's divorcing couples, you know, and they're having conversations with family members or friends, they say things in jest. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's evidential.
Okay, think tank staying with us. When we come back, let's change the mood here a little bit. Let's talk about Chad and Lori's love story.
In your review of those messages, did they appear to reference and correspond with the James and Elena, the characters?
They did.
Was there indication in there that the events in James and Elena were occurring in real life?
It appeared to, yes.
Again, as you were compiling and pulling the messages related to James and Elena, did you, in your opinion, did it mirror events occurring in real life with Chad and Lori?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Chad Daybell's an author, very prolific, wrote and self-published a whole bunch of these books that, you know, Lori read and became infatuated with them. But Chad also wrote a novella about these two characters, James and Elena, whose lives seem to mirror Chad and Lori. So let's take a look at the Chad and Lori timeline first. We begin in 1990. Chad and Tammy Daybell get married. Everything seems set up, a nice, clean, great life. Lots of kids living in God's country, right? 2006, Lori and Charles Vallow marry. Finally, Lori, on husband number 4, finds the man that, you know, is just a rock, is solid. 2015, Chad and Tammy Daybell move from Springville, Utah to Salem, Idaho. The fall of 2018, Lori Vallow meets Chad Daybell at a religious conference in St. George, Utah. And there it begins. July 11th, 2019, Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shoots and kills Charles Vallow in Arizona. August of 2019, Lori, Tylee, JJ, and Alex moved to where? Rexburg, Idaho, close to Chad. September 8th, 2019, Tylee Ryan is last seen alive. September 8th, 2019, Chad Daybell signs an application to increase his wife Tammy's life insurance policy. September 22nd, 2019, JJ Vallow is last seen alive. October 19th, 2019, Tammy Daybell found dead in her home in Salem, Idaho. And then, just a few days later, November 5th, 2019, Chad and Lori married in Hawaii. Now, let's go back a little bit. Just a few days after Charles Vallow is shot and killed in July of 2019, but several months before Tammy tragically passes away, gets murdered, Chad texts to Lori a romance novel. And again, it's about James and Elena, who seem to be based upon Chad and Lori. Take a listen to that text as read by Cody Thomas.
But on the morning of October 26th, James arrived in St. George still a bit baffled by the message he had received. MG introduced James to her friend Elena. When their hands touched, he felt a shock pass through him and his heart started beating fast. He had glimpses of them walking dusty paths together, and he realized they had been married during the life of Jesus Christ, and they had been very close to him. At this time, their spirits could not be restrained any longer, and a long-awaited makeout session took place in that lobby. This was manifest in the mortal world to James and Elena through the scientific phenomenon known as loin fire. As they talked, James had a burning desire to make love to her, but he wasn't sure she felt the same way. The erotic tension continued throughout the afternoon. James could only think of her. His desire for her was indescribable. Thankfully, she had worn 16 layers of clothing to survive the 80-degree weather, so he was not fully aware that she truly had the body of a goddess. Her dimensions were exactly what he had always fantasized about, but that revelation would have to wait a month. They would both attend the same event in mid-November, and it seemed like that day would never arrive. He knew they had been married before, and they had been close friends with the Savior when he lived in Jerusalem. That relationship was now meant to continue in this lifetime. They hungered for each other, and he leaned forward and fulfilled a promise he had made to her a few days earlier. He gently kissed her tender lips, and the same heavenly electricity filled his entire body. The passionate magic they had felt many centuries earlier came surging back powerfully. James moved to the couch, and Elena straddled him effortlessly, as if they had done this thousands of times before. She fit perfectly on him, and they pressed their loins tightly against each other. They were still fully clothed, but the intensity of the intimacy was undeniable.
Oh my. Oh my. Nima Romani, Chad Daybell, are you surprised that he's not a defendant in this case?
I'm not surprised, Vinny. The prosecution is doing its job by bringing the Lori and Chad romance story into this case to really dirty Lori up and explain why she would kill her husband, Charles, with the help of her brother. But like you said, I mean, that timeline's so important, right? Charles is killed. Then Tammy Daybell is killed a short time thereafter. The kids disappear. Chad and Lori are in Hawaii. We're covering this on Court TV almost every day when the kids are missing. I mean, this was big, big news. And this was the doomsday cult couple. They thought the world was going to end, the apocalypse in 2020. The pandemic happens. Vinny, you're covering it from home. We're covering this case from home. I remember it vividly. The story absolutely is relevant to the Charles murder, but you can't try that case within this case. So the prosecution is doing enough. It kind of reminds me of actually Bob Durst when the trial was really about Susan Berman, but they bring in evidence of these other murders, 2 other murders, to dirty up that defendant and explain why Durst would kill his best friend. Same thing here. This is a good explainer motive for why Lori would kill her husband. But you don't want to bring in all that evidence in this case when you really have a slam dunk or, as you like to say, Vinny, a layup with a pro se defendant who's not represented.
It's a layup. Slam dunks are not easy. Try doing one. No one on this panel tonight, I don't think, could do a slam dunk. Maybe Kirk back in the day, because he's huge. What are you, like 6'10"? But I certainly could never do a slam dunk. So, Kirk, do you want to talk about the loin fire, or what do you want to talk about?
I want to make sure Cody's okay after having to read all that stuff, because that was pretty darn tough read. I don't know how he got through it. But listen, Vinny, I think Nima's right as it relates to the point of not being able to bring Chad into this case. But it does illustrate Chad. You know, we know he was a grave digger. He was this guy who probably didn't feel like he had a lot of respect in the world. So he elevates himself with these false prophecies, these romance novels, everything else, and was able to ensnare someone like Lori into the plan. Whether that was because she wanted to, you know, be rid of her husband and have $1 million, or whether because she really believed in it, we're never going to know. But we know that her actions to be with Chad and to kind of live this fantasy life, this insane life, right, were done in order to you know, her murder of Charles was done in order to facilitate this. So I think it's very clean of the prosecutors to focus simply on Lori.
And Jason, Jensen, when we talk about everything that has happened here, right? This is the third trial that we've gone through. It seems every spring there's another Daybell trial. Looking at this, what happened here to me was fueled by this love affair / sex affair. They are lusting for one another. That is clear to me. But then there's also this whole thing about us leading the $144,000, and yeah, we want the $1 million life insurance policy.
Right, it seems all too convenient, doesn't it? Frankly, I'm surprised that they went through the trouble of doing this trial. She's already faced a double life sentence in Idaho, and the key perpetrator of Charles' death, Alex, is already gone. So this is really a tougher trial to get a conviction with, but obviously Arizona thought it was worth their time.
Jason, Jensen, Kirk Nurmi, Nima Romani, great to have you here. The Men's Club, here we go. We'll see you again really, really soon. When we come back, folks, I am going to reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we are just days away from openings in the retrial of the century, Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. Tonight, we take a closer look at all the videos from John O'Keefe's driveway. What do they reveal?
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
Doomsday Cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself
on charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial continues Monday morning on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look. What do we have? We've got verdict watches and a verdict. Monica Cementilli accused of conspiring to murder her hairstylist husband. We are on a verdict watch in that case. Linda Sturmer standing trial for a second time on charges that she beat her husband, set him on fire, and ran him over with their van. That verdict watch begins tomorrow morning. Make sure you're tuning in all day, folks. These verdicts can come at any time. Meanwhile, in Gulf, Harry Turk accused of strangling his wife. That verdict came down. Take a look.
Madam Foreperson, what say you as to indictment number 2020 CR 0138, charging the defendant, Ingolf Turk, with murder? Is he guilty of any offense charged?
He is.
Guilty of what?
He's guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
By the way, folks, that's basically a victory for the defense. It wasn't murder. It was the voluntary manslaughter. Involuntary would have been better, but it's a victory for the defense, even though he's being escorted out of the courthouse in handcuffs. Dr. Ingolf Harry Turk, now a convicted killer. All right, folks, take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Mariah Renee Williams, missing since April 8th out of Tumzaba, Mississippi, a town of less than 800 people. She's only 16 years old. Please take a close look at this picture. If you see Mariah, make a call, make a difference. Call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office in Mississippi. Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office. That number's on your screen. Let's see if we can get Mariah to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.